This is fictional. It is a simulated role play experiment. Here we go. Hi, my name is Jane. I'm going to be working with you today. I use she/her pronouns. What would you like me to call you?
Um, my name is Joseph. And I never really considered pronouns, but I guess I would use he, him.
Cool, yeah. That's cool. I just like to throw it out there just in case, but you don't have to feel obligated to include your pronouns or anything like that. Um, so how did you find the office today, or did you have any trouble getting here?
No, just a little bit of traffic, but it wasn't too bad. Kind of rush hour after classes and everything.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yes. So I'm also wondering, did you have a chance to review the consent form for our therapy today?
I got a chance to skim it over a little bit, but it would definitely be helpful if you could kind of give me a just quick spiel of everything.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So, while doing therapy or counseling, there's just a couple things that we have to consider and remind our clients. So most of what we discuss in here is confidential, and there's just a few exceptions to that. So therapists are mandatory reporters, so we're required to report in certain information about our patients. For example, as a therapist, I must report if they have if I find evidence or a reasonable concern that a child, elderly person, or disabled person is being abused or neglected, or if I have any reason to believe that a patient might be a danger to themselves or others, or if there was a situation where um, I was requested to release records for court and testify. I would have to do that if it was ordered by a judge. But other than those situations, what we discuss in here is confidential as long as I do not feel that there is harm or danger to you or others.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so other than that, what we talk about stays between us if you want it to. But yeah, we just have to go over that to make sure that everyone stays safe.
Okay, thank you. I think that's pretty clear.
Cool, cool. Um, so today since this is our first time meeting, we're just gonna try and do an assessment to kind of see how I might be able to be of help to you, or if maybe I could refer you to someone else if we find that maybe I'm not a good pick or a good fit. But before we begin, do you have any questions?
Um, no questions at the moment. Just I would say it's a new experience for me, so a little nervous, not sure what to expect, but I appreciate you, so thank you.
Of course, yeah. It's okay to be nervous. Going to therapy it's a big thing. It's a big step. It's not hard to do, so I hear you. I'm wondering, is this your first time doing counseling or anything like this, or have you done it before?
Um, First time for a formal type of counseling, I would say. Usually just talk to like friends or family if
Mm,
anything arises, but nothing like this, I would say.
gotcha.
Mm,
Cool. Yeah, then we'll take it easy, just get to know each other, try to figure out what's going on with you.
mm,
Um, so now I'd like to open up the floor for you to kind of just tell me what brings you in here today,
mm,
or why you decided to seek therapy.
mhm. So as I said before, like it's a kind of a new experience. I'll be honest, I was kind of reluctant to come. I wouldn't say against my own will, but one of my family members, my uncle, he highly recommended that I should probably come in and seek some external support beyond what he could or other family members could give me.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, just the general kind of thing that's been going on. Dealing with an injury. in recovery right now for ACL, MCL.
Mm.
Uh, uh, was a football player, and at this point in my life, I'm getting towards graduation and all those things, and trying to figure out what's next for me, and not really sure where to go from here.
Mhm. Okay, I hear you. So you had a family member kind of tell you that might be time to seek some external therapy. That's really good that you have someone in your life that's looking out for you like that. And that could suggest for you to come and talk to someone else. So are you just from what you just said? So you're a high school athlete. What sport was it that you said you played?
Played football.
Played football.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear about your injury. I know that ACL is that's a tough one. Did you have the surgery for that? And now you're just in recovery afterward?
Had the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
In recovery right now. It happened early in the season prior to even starting. So during like summer, camp and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't even get a chance to experience my senior season, and had a pretty decent amount of schools that I was looking at and being recruited by. And so everything just kind of flipped. Went from going to see many different schools and attend different recruiting events and have different scholarship offers to now not even sure if I'll be able to play again at this point. So it's just a lot. And so I think, as you said before, my uncle definitely helped
Mm-hmm.
or really encouraged me to come because in his opinion, I don't know if I'm ready to admit that yet, but I've been kind of spiraling, as he says.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds really hard having like going from that shift of getting ready to look at schools to being injured and in recovery. So I can imagine how that would be really hard for you. And especially as a senior, there's lots of stuff going on. I know that. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your injury, but I'm really happy that you're here and that you're taking steps to start to move on, even though that might be a little bit difficult. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, thank you for coming in. And thank you for just telling me about what's going on with you. That helps
Mhm.
me get a good idea of your current situation. Um, let's see. Um, since since your injury, how has your mental health been, like day to day?
Um, I guess simply not good, and expanding more on that, just utilizing a lot of bad coping mechanisms, and just I don't feel like myself. I think it's the biggest way I can put it. So, uh,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the injury and being prescribed like medication and those kind of things, I would say borderline like using those even when I'm not in pain, just to kind of numb myself. uh, Alcohol, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say kind of as like my uncle, well, as he said, like kind of in this spiraling state. What specifically happened, I was over his house, and kind of just rambling or ranting essentially, and he said he was kind of concerned and never seen me like that before.
Mm-hmm.
um and I had a couple drinks, and I also had taken some medication like prior that day, and I think that might have did something to me that was a little bit more intense than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I feel like I can have I'm fine with just having a drink or two, but now I feel like it's more now, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for telling me that. It's really big of you to notice that in the first place, to notice that you're maybe starting to use a little bit more than than you used to or than you think you should be. So that's really good that you noticed. And also, what you're saying about not feeling like yourself, and that all makes a lot of sense because like you had this big change in something that you consider like part of your identity, and for that to be for everything to shift so quickly, it makes sense that you're feeling like a little bit out of body or like you're not yourself, because things have changed for you. So that's what you're feeling is normal. It sounds like the reactions you're having to your situation are very appropriate. Um, and and using in a time like that is also not super out of the ordinary, especially when you're prescribed medication for an injury like that. It's hard. It's hard to be
Mhm.
going through what you're going through mentally and then have those available. So I just want to let you know that you're valid in your experience, and um, I'm really happy that you opened up. Um, so, in terms of your using of, you said alcohol and painkillers,
Mhm.
do you feel that it's starting to get out of control? Like you are, um, I don't know, wanting to do it more and more, or is it more of like a I'll do it when I'm sad? Or like how would you describe like your relationship with these drugs, I guess?
Mhm. Um, Whenever I feel, I guess, overstimulated or overwhelmed, I think I just resort to that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so that it can happen almost at this point while I'm here is probably on a daily basis, but I think it's been a general climb
Mm-hmm.
of like a couple times a week I might feel that way. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like every day. I think what's contributing to it is like National Signing Day is coming up and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I was, recruited pretty highly. And at one point, I was seriously considering going to Eastern Michigan and was planning on committing and going. And then the injury occurred, and they rescinded my scholarship
Mm-hmm.
based on the injury and recruited someone else. And so for everything to kind of be, as you said, kind of taken away just so quickly, definitely has been hard. And so, seeing a lot of guys that I grew up with and friends who are also in this process and seeing them where they're going and like
Mm-hmm.
taking the next step in their life, I just kind of feel stuck, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I can imagine that that's really hard watching your friends who have like similar interests, who you've been playing with and growing up with, doing these things that you plan to do. And now it seems like you're kind of feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems like you're feeling a little bit lost, just at this
mm,
point with,
mm.
um, you have your whole life ahead of you, but you got so many options that I feel like it makes it really hard because your one option that you wanted might not be possible anymore. So now you're kind of being forced to think of something new. Is that kind of how you're feeling?
Yeah, I would say so. Like I said, I've been playing roughly my whole life. So I think you used the word identity earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, I guess you could say it is part of my identity. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I wouldn't say I was or I am the best student ever or have really any other interests. So it's just trying to figure out, and get back on my feet at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, you just saying that makes me wonder, what do you have any other interests that you can think of besides football or sports that you like feel you are good at or you enjoy, something other than the sports?
Um, I mean, taking care of my younger brother and sister and taking them out to different places or to the
Mm,
movies or anything like that, to the park. Um, and I think that's also been a big contribution as well of like this feeling stuck because, as the oldest, I'm kind of the role model. And so now I just
mhm.
don't really know. And so
Yeah.
outside of that, that's again, it's been family and football has been the
Hmm.
primary too. And so, trying to figure out what is next or what is, could I still try to play somewhere once I'm healed, or is it really over, or am I done and what's next? So it's
Hmm.
just a lot going on and coming at me right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big part of life right now. Kind of have to, it feels like you have to figure out what you're gonna do, even though in the grand scheme you have a lot of time. But I know how it feels to be in that position. Not exactly, but I know how it feels to be 17 and about to graduate high school.
Yeah.
Not really knowing what's next. But it sounds like you have a good amount of family pretty close to you, which is really nice. But I can see how it would be hard to be the role model and have that pressure on you, especially when you're going through your own stuff. And I can imagine um, that it might. I don't know, but I can imagine that it would be hard to keep those emotions in, maybe, or like you might feel like you need to in order to be that big brother.
Mm.
Um, So I can just imagine that that would be really tough. Do you, um, just kind of going off of other family relationships, do you feel like you have secure relationships with your family or the people in your house? Like, I don't know what I'm trying to ask. do, um, yeah, I don't know. What are the relationships like with your family in your house, I guess?
Um, well, I mean, both, my mother and father are present, but not as much as maybe I would like, or not even just for myself, but also my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, both blue collar type of workers, in the plant, GM, Ford. So we don't really see him like that, every now and then, of course, like after 5 p.m. or something. But from the time, I'm up in the morning, it's just me getting my siblings, ready for school and then heading out,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. And then also my grandmother, she lives with us as well. So it's all of us together. Um, I'd say I'm probably a little more closer to her than even my own parents, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, in a way.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the dynamic. And then, of course, my uncle, who, referred me to come, pretty close to him. But I feel like those relationships are kind of conditional in a way. I feel like things have shifted because of like the injury, and I'm not sure if I even want to go through the recovery process and continue to play. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because for context, like football runs pretty deep in my family. So dad played at like Ferris State on the western state side of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle also played at Wayne State. Um, so it's kind of this pressure a little bit, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
so I can't I'll say yes. In the past, the relationships have been somewhat secure,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure if I go a different direction that they'll be the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I see. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard when like these like we were saying earlier, like it sounds like your family kind of has like a tie to football, and it's hard when like that part of your identity and your family's identity is taken away or not taken away, but things change and now you feel a little bit disconnected from them because of that. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you're fearing a little bit what your family might, they might react if you are done with football. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. 'Cause I think you asked me about some of my interests, and as I said before, one of the main ones is football, and that's mainly because I never really got a chance to explore what else, if
mhm.
that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that's all I really know.
right. Yeah. Yeah, from a young age when you're told to do something or encouraged to do something, it's kind of hard to think of other activities.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we could, looking at, although this is a really upsetting situation for you, it sounds like looking at the bright side of this could be the opportunity to explore other things. Like you said, you kind of felt like you didn't have an opportunity to do so. So if this injury does end up being something that causes you to stop playing or stop playing in college, it could be a really great opportunity to explore other things, even though that sounds probably sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's see. Um, sorry. So I just kind of want to try and move on a little bit and get through a couple more questions with you about your current situation and your mental health and everything else so we can get kind of a whole idea of what or how we might be able to help you in these therapy sessions. So if it's okay with you, could I ask you a couple more questions to try and get a better idea?
Yeah.
Okay. So um, sorry. Okay. So from the counseling process, like I'm wondering what you are expecting from the counseling process. Like, what do you think, if you know, what would it take you to feel like a little bit more at peace with your situation? Or is that what you're trying to find? Just wondering if you have any ideas of what you might need in this situation.
Um, I don't know. I guess just general help with my situation and resources potentially. Um, because like, this is something that I'm not too unfamiliar with in terms of substances and alcohol. Like I would say it runs in the family basically. Um, so I guess I would want to see like why am I resulting to these kind of tendencies
Mm-hmm.
and how to better cope, I guess. Because I even though as hard as this is, I can only imagine there would be other instances in my life where I'll have to adjust or pivot or anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess just better coping mechanisms.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's great that you're looking for that. The first step in realizing um, that you are having an issue is identifying that, and it sounds like you've really done a great job of noticing what you're doing isn't exactly healthy for you. So that's really good that you're seeking out different coping mechanisms. Um, and like you said, coping mechanisms used in tough situations can be applied all the way throughout life. So Yeah, I think that we can definitely find some things for you to do instead of maybe going to use or starting to get down on yourself. Um, we can definitely find you some resources or different activities to do. Um, so I'd say so. Some of our goals for therapy, it sounds like, would be trying to find you some better cope or like more healthy coping mechanisms and um, let me know if you disagree, but maybe trying to think of some, um, trying to find different interests as well. Because not saying you have to be done with football, but just maybe widening your hobbies or whatever could be good for you, just to bring your mind off of your injury.
Okay.
Um, okay, so let's see. And so we've been talking a little bit about identity in terms of sports and what that means to you and your family, but I'd also like to talk about your identity in other ways. Sometimes aspects of people's background or identity can make their issue better or worse. And by background or identity, I mean the communities um, that you feel that you belong to or that you're involved in. So I'm just wondering what aspects of your background or identity feel are the most important to you, and that can be anything that you um, would consider your identity.
Mm. Um, so I would say probably the mixture of my identity as an athlete. That's something that, we kind of talked about a little bit, but it's something I grew up with essentially, and I would say I'm kind of perceived as, and for better or worse sometimes. Um, and then the second piece would be my identity with my culture or heritage. So being African American, also having family from the Caribbean. So those two identities, I would say, so a mixture of the history of like African Americans and then also the immigrant background as well. So those two, I would say, largely have kind of pushed me to where I am today.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. The your family and your culture and history as a whole definitely always has a huge impact on your life and how you live it. And um, I think it was in your intake form, I was reading about, um, or I guess it might not have been on the intake form, but you were talking about kind of like how your different identities kind of intertwine. So being an African American man, along with being an athlete, how would you say that those identities like interact for you? I guess.
Um, I never thought about it, but I think maybe it interacts in a negative way, maybe because I
Mm,
think that's all. For context, I think it was mentioned, but I attend Melvindale High School, so that's a pretty, downriver, just south of Detroit. So I would say it's pretty white for the most part,
mm,
for lack of better term. So as the one like black athlete on the team, it comes with a lot of perception and expectation, I guess, right, to
mm,
perform. And so I would say more negative in a way.
mm,
So you have to kind of, I feel like I have kind of put up this facade or bravado, basically to kind of meet those expectations.
yeah, yeah. That um, I can imagine that that would be tough, like living up to those preconceived expectations or stereotypical ideas that people might have. yeah, so I can imagine that would be really just difficult growing up, I guess I could see for you. Um, would you say that, what was I going to say? I guess this is kind of like what we had already talked about, but a little bit different wording. What aspects of your background or identity are most important to you personally? I know we kind of touched on that, but I just want to know a little bit more about that, I guess, and how you personally feel about your identities.
Mhm. Um, as I kind of said a little bit, kind of spoke about it a little bit before, like football definitely. But now again, like not really kind of in limbo, not really sure
Mm-hmm.
where that is in terms of like priorities. Um, and then again, just culture and heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, yeah, I would say those pretty
Yeah.
much.
So culture, heritage, and your football identity seem to be the most salient for you.
Hmm.
Seems to be what most of what we've talked about. Okay, gotcha. Um, let's see. Is there anything else about your background or culture that you would like me to know, or that I'm wondering if you have um, any hesitation, or I don't know, what are your thoughts about how our identities might affect our work together? Because we are from different cultures, and I just wanted to see how you felt about that, and if you felt comfortable, like, continue to speak about this stuff with me.
Mm. Um, I mean, so far it hasn't been bad, but it's definitely a little awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to like, I guess, explain some of these things.
Yeah.
But again, it's all new, and I'm just trying at this point, open to any experience that'll kind of help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really mind it at all.
Okay. Yeah, I
But
just wanted to throw that out there because just in case at any time, if you feel that I am not doing you justice or understanding, I want you to know that I wouldn't take offense to that and that I would do all that I can to find someone that would do you justice and understand you better. But I'm definitely open, as you are, to exploring this process together and trying to teach each other, or not teach each other, but talk to each other about these things in a comfortable way. And just want us both to make sure that we're comfortable and have the opportunity to speak up if you're not.
mhm.
Um, so I'm just gonna keep going through our assessment. We have not, this has not come up so far, but I do try to make it common practice for me to ask my clients about this specific topic. So many people have thoughts about not wanting to live or ending their own life. Some people are reluctant to bring this up on their own because it's very difficult. So I've just, like I said, tried to make it common practice to ask all my clients about this. Would you be okay if we um, discuss this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions just regarding your current mental state and how you're feeling. Have you wished that you were dead or wished that you could go to sleep and not wake up before? And if yes, can you please describe that?
Um, I would say so. And more specifically when I'm like engaging in any type of substance.
Mhm.
Um, I have passed out and not woke up a few times, and that's been recent. So more of why my uncle kind of urged me to
Mhm.
come. Um, so I would say that's the main thing, but
Gotcha.
like any intentional like harm, I don't think so. It's really just been passing out, and maybe I won't wake up at that time, maybe not get as lucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah. Like I said, many people have thoughts like that sometimes, and but it's good to hear that you feel that it's not exactly intentional. It's more of like when you're using. Um, I also, and this was kind of already answered, and I let me know if you want me to stop asking these questions because I know that they're kind of a lot. I just want to make sure that I assess and make sure that you're safe. So have you, I feel like you kind of said, since you said there's no intention, I'm going to move on, but um, so have you done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your own life?
Um,
I know it's a little bit redundant, but.
I mean, like I said, outside of the, you know, overconsumption of alcohol and I guess with the painkillers,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, kind of, but really I would use those as kind of a relaxer to just calm like the
Yeah.
thoughts and the anxiety. They kind of help with that,
Mm-hmm.
put me at ease a little bit. So, but I have seen how they can make me a little out of control, or
Mm-hmm.
if I drink too much or take too many, then that's where I get to like passing out, and then like the instance with my uncle, that kind of thing. But
Right.
nothing where like I guess I planned to. It
Mm-hmm.
was a reaction
Mm-hmm.
basically to try to
Right.
just calm myself down.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing that stuff with me. I know that it's a hard topic to discuss no matter what. But I'm really happy that you're here and that you're aware of the way that these coping mechanisms are could not be might be not healthy for you. Um, and so I want to also ask about, we discussed a little bit about your relationships, but I never asked if you had a romantic partner. I don't know if do you have a partner at this time?
Yeah, I do. She's been, I guess, kind of trying to support me best as she can, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been the, I guess, easiest to deal with, and if that makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just, and then not only even towards her directly, like just, I guess, pushing everybody away, during this time and just trying to figure it out. I've had a lot of family reach out, and they said my uncle, he was the one who could get to me finally, but I just really just needed some time to just kind of process everything. Cause like I said, National Signing Day was only a couple weeks ago, and that's where I think things really went down since then.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Sounds like it's an event that you um, might have been anticipating for a while, and so for it to pass, I can imagine that that would be really hard for you.
Yeah.
Um, but it's good to hear that your partner is at least trying the best she can to support you, even though that might be hard. Um, do you feel that your relationship with your partner is safe? It's just
Um,
I just another question I want to ask all my clients just to make sure that they're in safe situations.
yeah. I would say so. I would say she's probably more of a positive influence on me than I am on her
Mhm,
right now, at least. But
mhm,
we've been together for a while, and so she's getting ready to go off to college too, and so I guess that's another thing that's kind of, I guess, more anxiety ridden is
mhm,
figuring out what she's doing and kind of where we're gonna be in terms of being
mhm.
together or not, and all that. So that's another kind of stressor too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot going on, especially just being the age you are, like relationships, school, all this change. It's a lot to
Mm.
juggle, but
Yeah.
it's hard for everybody. But it's good to hear that she's supportive, and it sounds like you have quite a few supports in your life. Your uncle, your grandmother, you said, and your partner. So that's really great. um, to have and people to lean on if you need it, and people to tell you when you might need to get some help.
Mm.
That's really great. Um, and so we're getting closer to the end of our session here. I want to know before we start to summarize and discuss our possible next steps. I just want to know if you had anything else that you wanted to get off your mind or any questions that you had for me.
Um, Not really at the moment. It's like I said, it's all still new, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even really sure where to go or if it'll be fully beneficial, but I'm at least trying, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to kind of bring together what we talked about today. So we talked about your experience with playing football your whole life and kind of growing up on it, and then the sudden change that comes with your injury and the possibility of not playing again, or at least not playing for a while. And we talked about how that has been creating kind of a major strain on your life, and it's making you question familial relationships just in terms of will they support you if this isn't what you decide to do. We talked a lot about your starting to use substances as a bit of a negative coping mechanism, and how you'd like to find healthier mechanisms. And something else we talked about is how you're feeling a little bit lost with all of this going on and all these big changes about to occur. Um, so our next steps would be, well, if we wanted to meet again, I'd say that our next steps would be doing a little bit more assessment, just trying to get to know each other a little bit more, as well as setting goals, which could look like trying to find healthier coping mechanisms instead of using drugs or alcohol, and other goals such as finding new interests or other things that interest you, other than sports or other than football. It could be a different sport that maybe doesn't strain your injured um, your injury as much.
Mm.
Um, and then kind of deciding on a plan of action, like which goes along with goals and coping mechanisms. I think once we set goals and find coping mechanisms, the plan of action could be using those and seeing where we're at after. Um, so yeah, just reiterating that next time would be goal setting, coping mechanisms, and discussing a plan. Now I'm gonna invite you to kind of tell me how you felt this session went. I know, like we've said, this is all very new, but I just wanted to see how you were feeling, and if you would be interested in setting up another session to try to get things going a little bit more.
Um, I would say definitely in the beginning, I felt, more reluctant or not as open, but it's definitely helped kind of thinking about and reflecting on some of this stuff. So I'd definitely be open to scheduling another meeting and trying to come up with a plan to move forward essentially one way or another, whether I continue playing or not, and everything else in between, basically.
Cool. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good to hear that you started to feel a little bit better as time went on. I know, like, starting therapy is weird and can feel weird talking to a stranger about stuff going on in your life. So I appreciate you opening up to me and being open to the process as well. Um, yeah, and I'd love to set up another session where we can dive deeper into possible um, healthy choices and activities for you to make yourself feel a little bit better and cope better with this new change.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so if you don't have any other questions, I would be I'd be glad to talk to you again, like I said. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I've had a great time talking to you today, Joseph, and I hope to hear back from you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jane. I look forward to speaking to you again as well.
Of course. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.